So is it nighttime for you all there already? I mean, it's 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it's pretty dark out now, Rob.
So I'm
Welcome to
lucky.
the 30-minute hour. It's the personal development podcast for entrepreneurs who are looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. Joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
Monday is upon us once again.
Once again.
I tell you, time is really going by. We are already out of January. We're into early February. But today, this is one of those shows people are going to really want to lean into because we're talking about how to win financially without losing your family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you definitely want to pay attention to this one and lean in because contrary to popular opinion, you can have it all. It's not just either or. It could be both and. It could be yes and. So we're going to be talking about how we can do that. We've got the expert extraordinaire. He's a CPA. He's a CFP. And like I said, any other acronym that describes somebody that knows a lot about money.
Alphabet soup after my name.
But we'll give him the formal introduction here in just a moment. But we did need to tell you that this is not your everyday podcast. Now we do things a little different. Ted, did we give Rob the warning backstage? I don't think we did.
Yeah, I don't think so. He gonna learn today.
Hey, hit me. I guess we'll see how flexible I can be.
That's right. We do it a little different here, Rob.
That's right. We do things a little different here. You can watch us live on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and YouTube just by typing in the 30-minute hour in the search field for those platforms, and you'll find us right there. You can also go back and listen on the podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you'll catch us. And again, thank you for continuing to listen and share the show. We're up to 660,000 total downloads. We definitely appreciate you and how you've been supporting the show. And please continue to share the show.
Right, don't stop. We're thanking you. We want you to keep doing it. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. So once again, our theme is how to win financially without losing your family. Our guest, he's a CPA. He's a CFP. He's a former financial advisor who's on a mission to bring world-class financial expertise to everyone for a fraction of the traditional costs. By day, he's a shareholder in a FinTech company called Elements. By night, he uses their technology to answer the financial questions of his clients and help them make wise financial decisions. Please join me in welcoming to the 30-minute hour podcast, Rob Cook.
Well, Eric, Ted, thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Truly an honor to have you on.
Thank you.
So definitely wanted to get the backstory from you. Like how did you land on the financial services industry, like as your area of focus?
I was one of those kids growing up that always wanted to know what I wanted to do with my life, but no matter how hard I tried, it seemed like life was meant to be more of a windy path. So I actually went to school originally thinking I want to be a dentist, but my wife says that would have never worked. I'm 6'5", 230 for most that are listening, and my hands, she says, would have never fit into someone's mouth. And I'm trying to help them out. I would have had to be really, really good with those tools. But ultimately, what happened is I almost fell asleep job shadowing a dentist while I was standing one day. And I thought, you know what? Maybe this isn't the right profession for me. Maybe it is for other people, but maybe not for me. And luckily for me, I had been paying attention in terms of like trying to set myself up for success if I was going to be a small business owner as a dentist. And so I've been taking some business classes and things. And so I started to just kind of think like, what am I naturally good at? What are the things I've always really enjoyed learning about? And my grandfather was a small town entrepreneur, invested in real estate and kind of short-term loans and various things that he did with various contractors and things. We were kind of connected to the construction space. And so this world of investing and finance and wealth creation had always been kind of fascinating to me ever since I was a kid. When I got into college, I realized I had a real acumen for it. I was majoring in accounting and really enjoyed it. And so I eventually decided to just go all in on personal finance and on financial services. Started off in public accounting at Ernst & Young, if anyone's familiar with that company. One of the largest multinational accounting firms in the world. Had a great experience there, learned a ton, was in there what's called Private Client Services Group. Basically, I did tax returns and financial work for everyone from your small town mom and pop to international athletes and CEOs. It was a pretty rad experience. Learned all sorts of really interesting things. But then eventually transitioned into full-on individual wealth management because my passion was less on doing the tax returns or looking at things that had already happened and more on creating a future worth having. That's where I really wanted to be able to focus. And so I transitioned into wealth management.
So that's interesting. So first you said that you thought you wanted to be a dentist, but then you did some job shadowing and it put you to sleep. And I think
Literally.
that's vital. like I think it's vital to shadow. Like if you think you want to do something before just jumping in with both feet, job shadow that person. If you think you want to own a restaurant, spend some time in a restaurant. Right? Do you see yourself on a Friday night just hanging out at your restaurant doing your thing? And I think people miss that step because they're just focused on the turnkey money opportunity of their venture.
Yeah, I think the work of just doing the introspection work for me of just figuring out, okay, what am I naturally really good at? What are the things that I have a natural disposition towards? And where can I leverage my highest and best skills in a way that it's actually enjoyable for me? Has been some of the best work that I think I could have probably done.
No, that's good. That was the other thing I was going to call out, really, really thinking about and reflecting on what are those things that come naturally and then aligning with that in your venture. Because I think
especially with small business owners, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Because it's not as glamorous as Ted makes it look. He's the super CEO and you see Ted, you're like, man, I could do that. But it's not as glamorous. It helps that you're aligned with your talent. Ted, what were you about to say?
Yeah, this entrepreneur thing, everyone can do it. Come on, it's easy. It's easy.
His eyes are all bugging out.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Oh man. So Rob, if you could go back to when you were first starting out, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to that younger version of yourself?
Well, the advice that I probably give to my younger version of myself is to not stress about it so much, frankly. I think I worried a lot back then. I grew up in a house, and I think it's partially my generation, grew up this idea that I had to get a degree, had to get a job, had to start off somewhere, and then, that was going to be what I did for the rest of my life. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to try and figure that out in my short time span there, college. And I'll admit, I am a CPA. I'm a CFP. I got a master's degree in accounting. Am I doing any accounting nowadays? No. In fact, I'm one of the leads in our sales teams to take our software to the rest of the country. I'm not even connected to doing finance from a corporate level. I'm doing sales and operations. And then I leverage my skill set on the side, like we said here at the beginning, to kind of use our software to help people. So I thought that once I got a degree in accounting, that was what I was going to do the rest of my life. And quickly realized that, life changes a lot more than we anticipate. And opportunities present themselves that we could have never foreseen. And so if I could go back to my younger self, I'd probably tell myself to chill out, number one. And number two, find just a good skill set, something that's worth having, which I think accounting was, and learn as much as you can. Make the most of it. Don't worry about it. Have some fun along the way and just work hard, doing your very, very best, and opportunities will present themselves. You'll be led to where you need to go, what you need to do.
Yeah, it's possible that a young person today, their calling, that thing that they were born to do, hasn't been invented yet.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. Like when I was in college, I wasn't telling people, I'm going to be a podcaster one day.
You gonna be a what?
The technology hadn't been invented.
Yeah.
I said, my friend Ted, he's over there at Norfolk State We're gonna get this podcast. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great.
I think they would try to drug test us if we said that. But no, so I think you, like you said, Rob, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to be taking steps in that right direction. So I'm curious, your mission is to bring world-class financial expertise to everyone for a fraction of the traditional cost. I mean, why is this such a focus for you?
Well, for me, the reason why this is such a focus for me is because I feel like we live, and not just like in a world where we've had a recent biological epidemic, but I think we live in a world of a financial epidemic in our country, particularly a financial education epidemic. For so many people, finances and money are a scary thing. And so they either ignore it, or they get burned a couple times and then they want to stay away from it, or they try to do enough where they feel like they don't have to think about it, and then they just, put it off in this corner. It's the number one cause of divorce in our country, all sorts of things. And I feel like as an industry, a financial services and financial advisory type industry, we've done a disservice to the American people. Most of our industry is comprised of individuals who are either doing one of two things. You're either selling a product, whether that's an insurance product or annuities are insurance type products, or a life insurance type product, or you're selling some sort of broker dealer based securities type product. Or number two, they're advisors who mostly collect fees based off of assets under management. AUM is the phrase that we use in the industry. But what that does is it basically, number one, excludes 95+% of the population who don't have assets to be able to be managed, so that all those advisors that do that approach are never even going to talk to you if you don't have a bunch of money to manage. And number two, if you don't have a need to be sold something, or if they can't be fear-mongered enough to be able to buy something, then they're likely never going to talk to you either. And so what happens is all these professionals who truly have a lot of expertise in a lot of different areas that could be really valuable for a lot of people never even make an attempt to help most people out. Most small business owners, you're only going to be approached by a financial advisor if, number one, you've just sold your business, or you're just about to sell your business, or number two, if you might have a life insurance need. Oh, you don't have a buy-sell agreement in place with you and your partners. We better make sure we get that buy-sell agreement in place. Or, I see, your business is doing really, really well. Why don't you buy this single premium annuity life insurance, policy here, or buy this infinite banking concept. Nothing wrong with any of those policies, but that may be the only reason why they ever talk to you. Where in all reality, these are way more complicated than just a product, or just maybe a small an investment account to be managed. There's so many aspects to it, and so many things that happen between, say, 25 when you're out of college and 65 when it's the traditional retirement age, where there's so many opportunities where if we had access to good advice for relatively cheap, it could have an astronomical impact on the financial future of families, of individuals in our country as a whole. And so for me, I am passionate about this because I feel like for the first time in our industry's history, there is a possibility in a way where we as financial professionals can actually come down and provide great advice. We have systems and processes that give us the scale necessary to be able to go, I can profitably help almost anyone that I want to. And that is, I think, a powerful tool, a powerful opportunity for our country.
So if someone is, there's somebody that's watching us now, they're listening to us now, they're looking for the assistance of a financial professional. Like what are some key things that they should be looking for if they are, other than just call you? But what are some key things?
I mean, if you want to, please, by all means, it's great. Right. But well, there's a couple of things. Okay, number one, if someone's just trying to sell you insurance, even if they tell you that they're a fiduciary, they ain't a fiduciary, because they're automatically in a selling relationship. They're just trying to sell you a product. There is no longer a fiduciary obligation there. Okay, so keep that in mind. I'm not saying that insurance people are bad. There's a lot of great insurance guys that I know, but follow the money. The money will always tell you what to look for. Okay. The second thing is be wary of the term financial advisor. There's a lot of different people that can throw around the term financial advisor nowadays. A 22-year-old just out of college who passed the securities exam can call himself a financial advisor, and he knows nothing. So find someone who actually knows what they're talking about. Has had some good experience. I'm 34 years old, but I've worked in public accounting. I've worked in individual wealth management. I've worked with individual clients. I've done tax returns. I've done all sorts of things. What are you talking about here? Not to mention I have all these other certifications and things that go along with it. So two biggest things I would say is follow the money. Number one, see how someone's actually being compensated. Are they being compensated by selling you something? Be careful. Or number two, look and see what their real qualifications are to be providing you advice. At the end of the day, finances is multifaceted. As much as we live in a world of experts where you want to have some expertise in a particular area, when you want someone in your corner, you want someone that's going to help you see all the potential blind spots that you might miss as it pertains to your finances, not just a blind spot in one area. And so that's why for myself personally, that's why I am a CPA. That's why I am a CFP. That's why I'm a first level 1 CFA. That's why I'm 7, my 66, all these sorts of things. Because in my opinion, I got to know enough to be able to see the blind spots for the people that I help. I don't have to know everything about one thing. I need to know enough about all sorts of things and maybe have 1 or 2 areas that's my expertise. But I got to know enough so that I can go, okay, guys, here's our blind spots. This is what we're missing. This is why this isn't a good thing for us. So this is why this is a great thing. And here's some additional benefits we hadn't thought of.
No, I think this is good. I mean, follow the money. Yeah, are they just suggesting certain things because they get a commission for that? And then what are their qualifications? Because I think people get led astray all the time and end up in a bad place financially. That's why it's good to know who you can call and what questions to ask. So with what you're doing now, who is your ideal client and how specifically do you help them?
Yeah, so my ideal client, I like to say, is that 25 to 35-year-old father with a young family. Whether he's a business owner or not, is the guy that wants to be able to create a great financial future for his family. And this is that pivotal time in his life where he's making a lot of big decisions that can have huge impacts later on. And he wants to talk to somebody, but most of the time you're going to be turned away by anyone who has any level of expertise. I want to set it up such that those guys, most families, frankly, but I mostly target towards fathers just because I'm a dad. Those guys have someone that they know is in their corner. So who's my ideal client? 34, I call him Tenacious Tyler. 32 years old. He's got 2 kids, maybe started a small business on the side, working some sort of W-2 while he's doing it, trying to balance his family and work obligations and maybe church obligations and trying to take care of his health, not fighting the dad bod. That's the guy that I want to help. The guy who has the drive, is willing to put in the work, fight for a future for his family that he knows that they deserve, but just wants someone in his corner to help him out and help him avoid some of those pitfalls along the way.
So it's interesting you say that. So you're saying that, again, that person is typically getting turned away by financial experts?
All day long. They will never have a financial expert talk to them probably until they're at least 45 years old.
And the main reason for that is what?
Because either number one, they don't have any money for them to manage, because that's how most advisors make their money, is by managing someone else's money. Or number two, they can't sell them on a giant life insurance policy. Can't do either of those things. There's really no need for them to talk to them. Even though at that age and that gap, you'll make some of the biggest financial decisions of your life that can have huge long-term implications.
Interesting. Yeah, now it's coming together why you're so passionate about, having the offering that you have. So the tagline on your website, it reads, "Solving your money problems without sacrificing what's most important."
Mm-hmm.
So why is that important to you?
Well, that's important to me because really for one big reason, and that's my faith. I've been a man of faith my whole life, and God was good to me and blessed me with faith early on, often that I honestly don't understand how I got, frankly. Talk about the gift of faith in the Bible, if anyone's familiar with that, and I feel like I was blessed with that. But it's given me a perspective that in my life, I know that there are certain things that we should never sacrifice in the pursuit of temporal comforts. And in my work in both public accounting and then as a financial advisor, I spoke to so many people who who were successful, who balanced both. But then I also spoke to so many people who had gone an extreme one way or the other and had that regret. And I felt like, especially for those who went all out, just like, I gotta, money is the end all be all. It's the way we keep scoring the game, type of people. You missed this whole part of life that once you got to some sort of point where you felt like you were financially ahead, you realized that it was a little hollow without some of these other things that are so important, whether it's your health, your family, your faith, whatever it might be, your hobbies. If you sacrifice those things along the way, you're never going to actually reach a level of true wealth that really will bless you and everyone around you, potentially generations.
Here's a question that comes up for me on that. This is something I do in my work. Do you work with people in that whole wheel of life where you look at each area of their life, spiritually, socially, financially, romance? Do you help them kind of look at that, or?
To some extent, but I wouldn't consider myself like a holistic life coach or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But I'll admit, when I sit down with someone and we're talking about their finances, one of the very first questions I want to ask them is, why is money important to you?
Uh-huh.
Because that starts to tell me really quickly, like, where are we actually aiming towards here? What are we actually trying to accomplish? What are the things that are most important to this person? Because at the end of the day, finances is like a game. And there's all sorts of pieces, all sorts of tools that we can use, but the right ones really depend on where we're trying to go. And that doesn't depend on like a money number. Like, even if you get to like, I want to have a $10 million net worth. Okay, so what? What does life look like then for you at $10 million? Why is that number important to you, right? So inevitably, in those types of conversations, we inevitably start to expand into other areas, right? Like, we move beyond money. We start talking about family. We start talking about faith. We start talking about lifestyle. We start talking about fitness, various other things. And be like, okay, well, if those are the things that are really important to you, great. How are we then going to use our money to create that? Because that is what will bring you real happiness.
No, that's great. I totally agree. And see, my big concern when I'm working with somebody is that you're neglecting one of those key areas. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's not about doing everything the same amount of time or spending the same amount of time in each area. But the problems happen when, let's say, your money area is great. Oh, man. Yeah. But your health area, you haven't been to the doctor. You're not doing this. You just setting yourself up for a big problem. So I try to work with people. Hopefully, one of the takeaways people get from this episode is not neglecting any of those key areas. It's not just about the money. Not neglecting your family, not neglecting your kids. Like there's a song, it's called "The Cat's in the Cradle" that I think about all the time.
I was just thinking that same one, actually.
Yeah, it's the cat's in the cradle where at one point the father is so busy, he's out making this money. The son wants to connect with him and play ball, and he's too busy. And then the table turns, and the son is now older. And the dad's older, and the son doesn't have time for the dad.
Yeah.
And I think about that all the time. And I don't want that whole cats in the cradle situation. So we're talking about this whole idea of winning financially without losing their family or without losing your family. So let's go through this. What are some steps that people can take?
Well, there's all sorts of various things. In fact, one of the things that I've composed, I have this list of 16 different financial myths that are holding people back financially. So you ask, what can people do? Well, there's all sorts of different things that we can do. And some of these are just mindset shifts. Some of these are different approaches in the way in which we actually go about investing and creating wealth and pursuing our careers. Some of these are all sorts of various things. I shared even one of them with you, before this. But I'll just give you 2 or 3 that I think could be really, really impactful for some of your listeners. Number 1 is change the way you think about risk. And I think for entrepreneurs, this is actually kind of intuitive, but for most people, it is not. For most entrepreneurs, if you ask them, is it really risky to go start your own business? They'll be like, not really, right? I mean, like kind of, but not really. Even though statistically speaking, over 80% of all businesses fail. Most people, that's a horrifying statistic, right? But I would actually argue that most people take more risk in their stock market portfolios than an entrepreneur takes with a business that they're starting. And that's for 2 reasons. Number 1, because risk is not volatility. It's not going up and down, changing in value of something. Risk is the chance of loss. Okay, so for an entrepreneur, yeah, there might be a risk of monetary loss, but they'll recoup it in lots of other ways: building up a network, building up the skill sets, all sorts of things. And a lot of times they build, they don't lose that much when it comes to a monetary opportunity. The second thing, as it pertains to risk, is that risk and the amount of risk that you perceive in something has really three main factors that I feel like control how much risk you perceive in an investment. Number one, how well you know it, which entrepreneurs a lot of times really, really know their businesses really well, which is one of the reasons I don't feel like there's too much risk. Number two, how quickly you get your money back. When you're investing in the stock market, you almost never get your money back because almost no companies pay any dividends nowadays. And even if they do, it's more like 3 or 4%, which is pretty abysmal because it means it's going to take you like 20 years to get your money back when you first put whatever amount you just first put in. Okay. And then number three is control you have over that particular thing that you're investing in. As an entrepreneur, you control your own destiny. No wonder they feel like they're not taking that much risk because they're the one, they know that it's their on the line, right? If anything happens. But number two, investing in the stock market, that's another reason why you feel like it's so risky because you have no control over it. It goes up or goes down. You can't influence it or impact it in very many ways. Yeah, in theory, there's like option trading and various things that you can do to kind of hedge risk and stuff. But like most people don't do that. Like, what's one of the things that we can do? We'll change the way you think about risk. Change the
I
way.
want to stop you there. This is good stuff. Change the way you think about risk, and you that thing you bring up about the entrepreneur, and when you think about it, it's not as risky. Ted, I'd love to get your insight. I mean, you've had your company for 26 years, so you've probably forgotten more about the entrepreneurial risk than most people know. Welcome your thoughts on this whole thing about entrepreneurial risk and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's risky. I mean, and starting off, I think Rob, you mentioned before where you maybe working someplace else, right, and your check is coming, right, and then you start the the entrepreneur thing, and it's on the side, and you gotta work to get that check, and then when you then when you step out and you leave that that 9 to 5 that you have, and to really put yourself into your business, and during that time, that check is only coming if you make it come, right?
100%.
That's a whole nother thing. I remember having friends that said, "Oh, you can take off today. I mean, you run your own. It's your company." I said, "I can't. Matter of fact, I can take off the rest of the month, but yeah, if I'm not putting the time in, then the check's not coming. That's just a different way of thinking." And you also think, even as you start to bring on employees, and you wonder why they don't think the same way you do, right? It's because they're not as invested as you are. So it's all on you. So
100%.
Yeah.
And I wasn't giving my example, trying to say that entrepreneurs, you guys don't take any risk. Let's be real. You take some risk, right? But it's the perception of the amount of risk, or the uneasiness that investment in your life or in your family makes you feel, right?
Oh yeah.
So for like another simple example here is people say that, "Oh, I love investing in real estate. Real estate, it's almost a guarantee." Well, think about it. For most of them, they're doing direct buy and hold, which means they control it. Number two, they likely understand a little bit more because they've owned a home to some extent. They've been through the buying process to some extent, And number three, cash flowing real estate, you're going to recoup your losses a lot faster. It's easier to be willing to stay in something when you got money coming in from something every single month, right? Like it's a similar type of concept. But yeah, I hope that my comments didn't come across the wrong way for entrepreneurs. No, you guys definitely take some serious risks, and it wouldn't be without great entrepreneurs in this economy that we wouldn't be who we are as a country today. But
absolutely,
it's just, I think for most of us, you grow up thinking, "Oh, risk is this thing over here."
Right.
It's like, well, it's not actually. That's just a measurement that Wall Street has come up with to try and indicate, well, there might be a little more risk here because it could just drop on you.
Yeah.
It could. It's true, it could, but that doesn't mean that's risk. It's just one way to measure it.
Sure.
No, that's good stuff. So we're talking about how to win financially without losing your family. First, We talked about changing the way you think about risks. So what else?
All right. So here's another one. This is kind of more like general investment philosophy here. So for so many people who I talk to who are a bit younger, or the entrepreneurs feel like they got to hit the home run all the time. Got to hit the home run. Got to find that big thing that's going to just change my life. Got to be Mark Zuckerberg, who figured it out in college and became the founder of Facebook, right? Whatever it might be. Yes, home runs are great, but for the vast majority of us, financial freedom and some version of wealth is actually created with base hits and doubles and triples all day long. It's not about hitting the homer, it's about consistently getting on base. And our financial lives, more often than not, can be completely destroyed by a couple of terrible swings at the wrong pitches versus just waiting and being methodical, being tactful, being purposeful, and sticking to your plan, whatever it might be. So talk about creating financial freedom without sacrificing what's most important in life. Don't frantically be running around trying to find the thing that's going to just change your life completely. Figure out what you're best at. Figure out what you're good at. Figure out where you want to invest, where you might have an aptitude toward, whether it's your business, some real estate, stock market, and some other, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter. Find your thing and hit base hits. Warren Buffett hit a heck of a lot of base hits to get to more. A couple homers, but a lot of base hits.
I think a lot of times people are looking for that quick fix, that, the silver bullet, that one thing, and it's almost like if someone says, "Oh, wow, you got 660,000 downloads on your podcast. What did you do?" It's not like it's one thing you could tell a person.
Base hits all day long, right?
Every Monday for 4 years. And a lot of other little things. And that's how it is in business as well. Anybody that's successful, it's usually not they got this one big break. It's they've been doing a lot of little things for a long time.
100%.
Yeah.
So that's great. No, that might. Any other? We have one more that we can lead the people with.
I mean, I got all sorts of things here. Here's one that I think would be good for families. Can you stop being scared of a budget? Or don't even want to call it a budget, call it a cash flow management system, whatever it might be. If you're a small business owner, how long would you go without knowing what's going on in your business financially? Right? So why is it in our families, as long as we just got enough money in the bank account that we don't go dry at the end of the month, we just feel like we can just ignore it, right? I had a client one time who came to me. He and his wife were very, very successful lawyers. And they made combined over $1 million a year together, very, very easily. They told me that they thought that they only spent about $200,000 a year. They swore there was no way they spent more than $200,000 a year. That's what they thought in their mind. Well, I did the work to actually help them figure out where all their money was going. Okay, this is how much you're paying in taxes every year. This is how much you're saving every single year. This is how much you're going towards paying your debts right now. And they spent almost $1 million a year.
Wow.
Okay. Wealth creation, a combination of investing to grow our assets as well as actually understanding what you're spending and where. Because it's called lifestyle creep in the industry. If your lifestyle creep takes over, you could be killing it, but it won't matter. It's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but if you spend tens of millions of dollars a year, that ain't going to last very long, and you're not actually that wealthy.
Yeah.
And so I think for a lot of families, this idea of a budget or a cash flow management system or just getting a handle of what's actually going on feels overwhelming. It feels like there's just so much, or it feels like difficult conversation to have with a spouse. Maybe I know for like my wife and I, that was one of the most difficult things the first 5 years of our marriage, was trying to figure out how we're going to manage the family finances together, because I'm an OCD CPA and she was more of a life sciences, like, hey, we're good. she wasn't terrible, she wasn't bad spender, but just for me, the OCD CPA, it was driving me nuts. So we had to find a system in a way that worked for both of us. So for all of you out there, I encourage you to find a way to understand what's actually going on in your finances every month, and have regular check-ins. Have the ability to be able to assess what's actually going on. Because if you don't, your wealth creation car might be off the tracks and down in the goalie without you even realizing it.
No, that's great advice. So if I heard you correctly, Rob, you said first you need to change the way you think about risks. Secondly, you need to focus on the base hits and not just trying to hit a home run, swing for the fences.
Create some
Then
systems, some
third,
processes. Yep.
yeah, you got those small wins that build up over time. And then the third thing is don't be afraid of the budget.
Yeah, no, not at all. And even for you, they're making enough money out there that you think, I don't really have to worry about it. It's kind of nice. You could be doing better. What if you could, instead of driving at 10 miles an hour down the road, what if you could be at 100? Because you just actually knew what was going on. Like, for example, I have a client that I worked with right now. We found out that he was only saving about 7% of his income. She's saying, not bad for most people. But after we did a little exercise together and helped him kind of get a handle on what's going on in his finances, he didn't have to change his lifestyle one bit, hardly. Just kind of rein a couple things in. He was able to increase that to almost 30% of his income.
Wow.
And at 30%, think of how much faster he's now able to invest in new businesses, how much faster he's able to buy some real estate, how much faster he's able to move towards getting financially free.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good stuff. So you're the host of the Contenders Wanted podcast. So what can people expect when they tune in?
So truth be told, I kind of put that on hold for a little while.
Okay.
As we've been going crazy here. But for what the tagline of the show is just success without sacrificing what's most important. And I basically just interviewed a bunch of people who had success in some way, but did it while balancing all those most important things. So everything from big real estate investors, I had lawyers, I had my last episode that I ever did was with a woman who is a pastor's wife. She ran multiple different marathons. She's got 8 kids, and she had open heart surgery and brain surgery. Yet was able to kind of balance it all and keep everything moving forward. Right?
Wow.
So that's the kind of stuff that you'll find as you listen to the podcast.
8 kids?
Yes, 8 kids. I will admit, when she said that, my jaw about dropped. I have 2, and as much as we'd love to have a bit more of a family, I don't think we'd ever get close to 8.
Yeah, I have 2, and 2 seems like a lot. I just can't imagine 8.
Yeah. She was an impressive woman, to say the least.
Okay. All right. So what's next? You got a lot of great things going on. What's next on the horizon for you?
You know what? I used to try and make all sorts of plans, and then I realized that the only way to make God laugh is to make plans, right? And so for me, for right now, from what I can see, I've got a great business at Elements that's growing. We're trying to change the financial services industry. I've got this opportunity on the side. I'm using our software to help other people, and I'm really enjoying that. But at the moment, just trying to make the most of what's right in front of me. We're just going to keep growing Elements. If it gets purchased or we sell or whatever it might be, it could be a great opportunity, I think. And continue to grow my Contenders Wanted services to people and see what the future holds.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay. So we're down to the final segment of this week's episode. It's called Write This Down. This is where we each go around and give one takeaway from this episode that we want people to write down so they can level up. So, Rob, from your perspective, which should the people write down?
What should people write down? Well, just because our conversation's been kind of centered around this idea of sacrificing without, financial freedom without sacrificing what's most important, I'd actually encourage you to write your own eulogy. Write your own eulogy, because it'll totally change your perspective. It's something that sometimes I have people do if we can't kind of get out of this whole idea of that, I'm just figure out how to invest, just make more money. It's like, okay, well, that's great. But when you die, what do you want someone to say about you? Because if we can put ourselves in that mindset, that completely changes the way that we do things today, right? What would the 85-year-old version of yourself tell you today? What would you wish people were talking about you then? Do today to then get there. So if I were you, write down, what's your eulogy? What's someone going to say about you? What do you want them to remember about you?
Write that down. Write your own eulogy. That's powerful. And it's funny, I think about that, especially when I attend a service and you hear someone's eulogy. That's always in my mind, like, okay, what's somebody going to be saying about me? And what can I do as soon as I leave to impact that? Yeah. So that's powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Or you'd be like, well, who are they talking about? I thought this is thought this was Jerome's funeral.
That's definitely in Jerome.
Oh.
That doesn't sound like the Jerome I've known, but okay.
No.
Oh man.
And I just think that the thing that resonated the most with me is just hitting the base hits. Yeah, I think that's it. You can, I guess I think as you're hitting the base hits, I mean you're at least making some progress, because you can get caught up, like you said, in looking at the folks that have hit the home runs, and you feel like you haven't done anything until you hit the home run. Mm-hmm. and you only see what you only see the home run. You don't know how many times they struck out to get to that home run. So yeah, I think that was a great point, Rob, of just hitting the base hits, and and just kind of celebrating those base hits.
Mm-hmm. Celebrate the base hits, focus on the base hits. It's excellent. So the problem with that, Ted, is that it's not sexy.
It is true. It is not sexy at all.
That's why people don't do it.
Yeah, it isn't sexy at all.
Yeah, I'll tell you that right now. That's 100% true. Everybody buys sexy. everybody buys pain, but no one wants to buy the unsexy.
No.
That's how life works. I hate to break it to you guys. That's how it works.
Well, good stuff though. Now we definitely need to focus on the base hits. So my piece for this, I'm reminded that I know a lot of people who have lost weight, and the main thing they do is weigh themselves every day. Every morning at the same time they step on the scale, and they swear that that's really the only thing they do, but it's not. But what happens, it's all about that measurement piece, right? And I think that's the power of setting a budget, like you were talking about earlier. Because when you start tracking something closely, I don't care what it is, it tends to improve. Because now you start making different decisions. So if you're weighing yourself and that number's going up, you're like, I may need to drink some more water, put these French fries away. You start to
put on less clothes when you get on the scale.
Right. Yeah.
I can only take off so many clothes, Ted. The scale ain't gonna change much.
I'll be fully dressed on the scale.
I'm down to one sock.
But no, I think it's the same with money, right? You start to
100%.
you start really tracking it and see where your money's going, and you start making better decisions over time. Yeah. And again, just like what Ted said, it's not sexy.
Yep.
It isn't. It's boring. It's not flashy, but it's effective over time.
100%. Actually, and that's what our software at Elements does. Is it gives you a really clear picture of where am I actually at, and where are the holes for me, which sometimes can be a little scary to take a look at, right? Like no one wants to step on the scale for the first time when they haven't stepped on it in like 6 to 12 months, right? But when you do, you're really glad that you did. So like that's what I do with anyone who comes in first. It's like, all right, here, check it out. We're going to look and see your scores. We're going to see where you're at. What's the scale look like, right? Because it's so vitally important. Totally agree with you there, Eric.
Absolutely. All right, Rob. So thank you for sharing everything you shared. How can the people connect with you?
Yeah.
Get more information from you.
Well, if you want to reach out to me directly, feel free to do so. I'll admit I'm not a big social media guy, even though I am a millennial. I don't want to waste my time. So for me, you can only find me on LinkedIn, but if you want to reach me directly, give me rob@contenderswanted.com. You can connect with me. Or if you want to sit down and actually get on the financial scale, see where you're at. I've got about a 10-minute process. I can tell you exactly how you're doing financially and give you 3 or 4 pointers to help you improve your financial life. If you want to have access to have future conversations, it's just $20 a month from that point forward. So if you want to get access to that, you can check it out at contenderswanted.com/free.
Wait a minute. I think I'm having an IT issue. You said it's $20 a month?
$20 a month. Hey, it's world-class financial expertise than less than the cost of your gym membership. It's kind of my recent little tweak to the tagline here. Financial freedom without sacrificing what's most important, right? And that also means keeping some of your money available for your family to actually do stuff with them, instead of paying $2,500 to $5,000 to meet with someone, which is what you typically have to pay for in our industry. So yeah, contenderswanted.com/free. Go check it out.
Contenderswanted.com. Make sure you check them out. All right, man, this has been a great episode. A lot of takeaways. Make sure you go back and listen to those and apply them in your life. But don't forget to share the show.
Share the show.
Share the show, guys.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah, share the show. Don't keep us a secret. Special thank you to Rob Cook for sharing everything he shared. Again, don't forget you can listen to this episode again or any other episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of those other great places. So that's our time this week on the 30-Minute Hour podcast. Thank you again, Rob Cook. And until next time, have a great one.